Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am your host for today, Sam, and I'm joined by our usual chair, Tom Mills.
Hello.
And Bruce Fitzpatrick.
Hello.
Okay, so today is a corker. We've got a fantastic guest on today, and we will get to him very soon. But I've also got to tell you about something that's happening this weekend. We are launching our new series on YouTube, A History of a Golf Club, which I am hugely excited about. Big thank you to Mr. Mills for all of his hard work on the videography work. It is 99, maybe 98% his labours, and I think it looks absolutely stunning. We had this idea a while ago of doing a history of a golf club for the simple reason that the UK is blessed with so much rich history in the game, and as part of doing videography work with courses, we felt like we could uncover every golf club that we visit, their unique and wonderful history. And that might be where it was founded. It might be some of the prominent and famous members they've had along the way. It might be some of the stories and the folklore that have become fact or, you know, were often fiction, possibly when they happened. And we visited Silloth last week and had a blast. I mean, we spent a bit of time filming, we spent time with members, we spent time with Secretary and the Pro, and probably a few too many Guinnesses in the evening. But it was just absolutely fascinating, getting kind of really close to the history of Silloth on Solway. And we really hope you enjoy the video. So that will be live on Sunday morning. It's about 5-6 minutes. I would hugely encourage our listeners to go and watch it, subscribe, and most importantly, let us know what it's like. Like, we'd love to hear from you in terms of what your thoughts are. So, moving on to today's podcast, we are joined today by Chris Trott, aka Trottie Golf. Now, I would argue that he might have one of the coolest jobs in golf, if not the coolest jobs in golf. And I mean, he has had an unbelievable ascendancy in the game. I know he started out working at the Belfry and has enjoyed a meteoric rise within TaylorMade. Essentially now is the de facto club guru on tour. He looks after the world's best players, period. He looks after Jon Rahm, Rory, Tiger, DJ, Jason Day, you name it. This man has sorted them out with stash and equipment. He is also a celebrity with Trottie Golf on his Instagram and YouTube accounts, and does some really, really cool, quirky stuff with merchandise. All I'm going to say is I don't think there's a thing in this world that he can't do with an iron or a wood or a putter, some glue and a bit of rubber. It's over to Trottie Golf. Chris, welcome to the pod.
What an intro that was. I mean, boys, I can't thank you enough for those words. Really, really kind, and I really appreciate you reaching out. I'm really happy to be here.
No, thanks for finding the time. So, I mean, I want to kick it off. Have you got the best job in golf?
I tell you, a lot of people say that I have. And I think, to be fair, I wanted to play like so many of us and didn't make it. And I think I have the second best job in golf. I think surely Jon Rahm or Rory McIlroy or Tiger have the best job in golf. And then you could dare say even the caddies, but that bag's a bit heavy for me. So maybe the second best job in golf.
So for the benefit of our listeners and some who may not have seen some of your content out there, Trottie, do you want to just tell us a little bit about what your role is with TaylorMade and kind of what it's all about?
So, the official title is Global Sports Marketing Director for TaylorMade, and I have worked all over the world, lived all over the world now, servicing the game's greatest players for their equipment, and that has evolved so much. I've been doing this since 2004, and it really has changed so much over time, how we get these guys dialed into equipment, how they approach a golf course, whether it be at altitude of Johannesburg or Mexico City, or whether it be the fast running fairways of an Open Championship. And it's really put us in a situation where it's crucial what we do out on the road and the team that we are out on the road. But behind it, and this is the main focus of the job, because I mentioned sports marketing, we are obviously marketing this golf equipment, and we need these athletes to endorse what we do. But it's not as simple as, say, F1 racing, where the person goes out and has to use Bridgestone tyres and they find the compound and off they go. We obviously have to dial these guys in to the equipment, and we have to make it perfect for them. We have to make it that they're happy, and obviously then we can go out and market that they're winning with it. But it's a challenge every season to improve what they had the year before, to get them playing their best. And I think John Rahm right now, because it's very relevant, it's been the perfect storm. I mean, him in the sim fairways and the sim driver and just the products he's got into has been fantastic. But the flip side is he's in a set of old irons, and that shows you. I mean, we haven't got him in the 760s yet. He's in a 750 iron. So really that's the job. You've got the yin and the yang of it. We've got the world number one player using our metal woods, but he's in a set of irons. We'd like him in a different set this year, but we understand it, and that's the challenge we face. We have to make some irons that are going to be better for him, which we're working on very much so.
I mean, we'll get into the players, no doubt, as we go through this, but the last few weeks have just been like a TaylorMade advert, haven't they? You've had DJ with his putter, obviously Morikawa, and then you've had an unbelievable week for Rambo, which is just incredible. Before we get into that, though, I want to just kind of understand how you've come into this, because you're now out in California, obviously traveling around on the PGA Tour when COVID restrictions permit. But where did it all start? How did you get into doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I want to touch on the first bit first, because you're right about TaylorMade and the players and the return. It's been unbelievable. The other thing is Daniel Berger gets a win using our Spider putter. So that, again, is part of the job. You're often trying to tout clubs into people's bags that aren't under contract. And that, again, shows the performance of it. But to the second part of the question, how did I get into it? So I mentioned before we got on, or as we got on, I tried to play for a living. And I did my British PGA, went through that course, did well in it, was at the Belfry. And the Belfry had the first $1 million fitting centre at the time, which, for those of the listeners who don't know, the Belfry is a Ryder Cup venue, made very famous by Seve driving a par 4 around the corner there. So I would work at the Belfry, and TaylorMade got a fitting centre on site, and I went to work for the Belfry in this centre. And we became the largest green grass account, which means you're a golf course account selling golf equipment. And TaylorMade quickly became the biggest account in the country. And that struck a little bit of interest. Then one day we had a VIP session, and McGinley came, Paul McGinley, who went on to hold the winning Ryder Cup at the Belfry. So the place means a lot to me. And McGinley sort of came in, went through a VIP day. I emceed the day, so to say, talked to these VIPs about products. I think it was back 300 series or 500 series. So we're going back to like 04, 05. And guy comes up to me. His name's Tom Olofsky. We call him Tio. He now works for Cobra. This guy's really smart, significant, like just one of those kids at school that you just would have been like, can I copy your homework? That type of deal. You know what I mean? Runs all the metalwood design for TaylorMade at the time. Now doing it for Cobra. So he's got his hands full with Bryson. And he says to me, that was great, really good. I was like, okay, cool, thanks. Thought nothing of it. I'm the kid, you know what I mean? He's like, oh, I'm Tom Olofsky. I run the whole metalwoods for TaylorMade. So I'm like, oh my God, like, what have I done here? I've just taken the last 2 hours running this whole day, and I've got this absolute legend in the room. And now so I said, oh, I'm sorry I forgot this. He said, no, you're brilliant. Saved me a job. I didn't have to come here all the way from San Diego. I was like, okay. So a week goes on. And this fella turns up, and he turns up with, we owned MaxFly at the time. We still do own MaxFly, but we'll move on that. And it had TaylorMade, Adidas, MaxFly. And I'm pointing to left chest, right chest, back of the neck, which again, being in sports marketing now, I understand the value of all these chest logos and arm logos. So this guy turns up, and he's an Irish guy. And I fit him for a 580 with a Grapholoy Pro Light. I don't know if you boys remember that. It was like, this thing was like, legendary shaft. It was like Excalibur. Everyone played it. Fit him for a Grapholoy Pro Light, 9.5. Said he might need to get it a little bit lower if he knew someone at TaylorMade, because he seemed like he did, because he had all these logos going on. And he says to me, oh, Chris, he's an Irish guy, so I'll have a crack at the accent. He's like, yeah, Chris, I've not come here. I've not come here for the driver. And I'm like, oh, what's this geezer want now? Because I'm paid on commission. So I'm wanting to get my 1% commission or whatever back at the day. Belfry was so tight. I was like, come on, I'm paid on commission. He goes, I don't need any golf clubs. And I was like, oh. He goes, I've come to see you. And I'm thinking, where are we going with this? What we're doing? And there and then he offers me a job working out on the side. I haven't even finished my PGA training. And he offers me a job. And the night before, I mean, they say things happen in threes, so I can't think of the third, but the night before I'd been out with the boys and met this really nice girl and sort of got her number. So I was on a roll. And the next thing you know, this guy walks in, doesn't buy the golf club, offers me a job. I'm just like, I'm flying here. Anyway, nothing happens with that girl. She goes out the window. Knew you needed to know that bit of the story. I carry on working for TaylorMade. I leave TaylorMade, go and try and play golf, which looking back was a stupid idea because you've got this job that, as you describe in that pleasant intro, is like the dream job. I leave that, then my goes on to become a friend. His name's Ian Watts, the Irish guy whose accent I did so poorly. He keeps the job open for me, and I go back. And then I'll fast forward the next few bits, but I did like 7 years in Europe, which was, probably one of the best stretches of my life. Obviously, now I have an amazing, amazing job. I mean, I'm working with the best players in the world now. And the best players in the world were in Europe, but it was guys like Alathabat, Sandy Lyle, a bit with Faldo, Woosnam. These were people that I idolised as a kid, Langer. And you go into places like Qatar, and I'm in the reception of a hotel in Qatar, and Desailly's there, the guy that won the World Cup with France. And you're like, that's Desailly. And what we're doing, and obviously he's finishing off his career playing soccer in Qatar. And then you go into, I remember going and having sushi in Shanghai. I'd never had sushi before in my life. And I'm sat there with a German tour player and another guy, and I'm like, don't fancy this. Just like, didn't know what I was doing. Obviously now it's a different story. I love sushi now, but all these great experiences around Europe, and some of them are maybe X-rated, that will do for your X-rated podcast that we can't.
It's all X-rated, Chris.
Okay. But just a great crack. And then the truck came out, and you get to know the truck lads, and they became great friends and went on to be part of my wedding, and just made some great mates down in Australia. And then I moved to Hong Kong with my now wife, she's wife at the time, English girl. Literally, I said to her, I came home one day, we were engaged, and I said, look, I've been offered a job to run Asia sports marketing for TaylorMade. America's where I wanted to get to, but I was sort of saying to her, it's a great opportunity. I mean, it's fantastic. Asia was really up and coming at the time. And she says to me, she says, oh, I don't really want to move to Asia. So I was like, let me keep going, and started telling her about what it was, where it was. And she goes, okay. She goes, I don't really fancy living in Hong Kong. And then I kept going. I kept telling her how good it was, how great it was for me. And then literally I said, it's in Hong Kong, and we're leaving 5 days after we get married. She's like, oh. But we had a great time there as well. And then we bought Adams Golf, and I had a really good run with the hybrids to start out. And I was taken into originally Texas. So if ever you guys get my cell phone number, which is a mobile phone in the real world, but cell phone here in America, I've got a Texan cell phone number, which throws everyone off because I live in California. But I literally had about 5-6 weeks in Texas. And that sadly became a bit of a closed down operation. Adams became in-house in California. But then you realize you've gone all the way from the Wirral just south of Liverpool to Southern California, and you are literally flying at this point. And you're like, right, this is it. I am cranking it. And that's when you end up getting in this. And that's when things evolve. You do international tours from San Diego, which is a hell of a time change, basically. This place anywhere in the world is horrific time change. I don't suggest that. And London's good for that, not so much San Diego. That's when I then got embraced into the PGA Tour, started doing putters and wedges, helping with design, which obviously for me personally is great to see so many of our short clubs in play, like Gary Woodland with that pitch at the US Open at Pebble Beach, that lob wedge, we were part of that. Anything DJ does with a 64, all that's great stuff. I still do the woods and stuff. I did some woods last week for Casey, who actually loved for 3M this week in the tournament. Not sure when we air this tomorrow, but Casey drove it really well, Took a new driver off me last week. So there's still some stuff that I do with the woods, which is cool. And then I started the Instagram thing, which you alluded to earlier. And we talked about Tour Truck Tuesday and what that's become. And it was just me wanting to I get on very well with me and my golf. I get on very well with them. And, they're just a pair of Muppets to talk about golf equipment. And I was like, boys, I've worked with the best players in the world. And they would always joke to me and say, people want to hear your stories. You want to hear what you've got to say. And I was like, you really think? They're like, yeah. And then you live a world where you're like, can I talk about these players? Are the players going to hate on me if I start talking about what grip such and such uses and all that?
Yeah.
But it's a fine line, and I dance it sometimes, maybe not enough, or maybe too much, I don't know. But I seem to be getting a few people listening, and that brings me to talking to you chaps.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it, how you get on to sort of dialing in with people like Casey and fit him a new driver. When you get into that sort of situation where they're after new kit, how dialed in are the pros on this shaft isn't quite right or this loft isn't quite right? Because I imagine with a normal amateur, if you give them a golf club, they couldn't tell you X, Y, or Z. You know, how into the pros that you work with?
Well, the best way to answer this, and I don't want to try and sound like I'm self-promoting, but when it comes to, I've started doing YouTube stuff. We touched on that with me and my golf. And what I'm trying to do, like I look at you three guys, you've already said you're golfers. You've already said you love the game. One of you's got a golf picture behind you and what I'm looking at in the screen. And the other two of you look like you've got all your arms and limbs and that. You look like you can move. So you're probably not bad golfers, okay? So if I was fitting you three, I would stand there and I would try to allow you guys to make the decision on where you want to go with your equipment. Now, you'd have to be honest with me. You'd have to say, look, I play links golf, or I get steep on it every now and again, or my back's horrific, my body doesn't turn, and I lose the odd one 160 yards left down a rabbit hole. Like, I need to look out for that one.
You basically got all three of us there, Chris, individually. I'll let you choose who gets steep on it, who plays links, and who has a bad back. But you've got all three of us to a T. That's an absurd skill you've just showcased.
Well, I've been doing it a long time, lads. But you get to a point where you've got it, because you're good players, though, and I can tell you all love the game. We've all said that about the podcast. We've got the history of where it's coming. You want to talk about it. So you're going to have opinions on where you want your games to be. So it's not on me to dive in and shape that too much. But if I get a Harry Hamburger who turns up and literally can't hit a donkey's arse with a banjo, you're right. I have to get in there and be like, listen, pal, we've got to get you some loft. We've got to get you soft flex. We've got to try and do everything we can so that you're not killing those people down the right fairway that runs adjacent to the hole you play. Otherwise, you're going to cause damage, and we've got to fix that. Now, when it comes to someone like PC, and we'll touch on him, and this is where tour fitting changes. 04 I've been doing this, guys. I mean, that's a long time. I know I look super young and youthful and like I've got everything together, but I'm basically a veteran in a small human's body. That's basically what I am. And because I'm not very tall, I think people place me at the wrong age. They still think I'm like a 15-year-old boy. Hence why I've got this huge beard going on. But the point is I've known Casey a long time. And you watch, don't you? And you watch golf because you're a fan, and you watch the way he plays the Open at St Andrews when he comes runner-up to Louis. And you get to hear what people say about him, what his peers say about him. And you know going into that. Now, he knows me, and he turns around like, Trottie, you need to melt my driver. I think the text I got, I won't look for it, take me forever. But I think it was something like, I'll have a look for it. I think it was something like, the driver I've got, just because it's interesting for the sake of what we're doing.
Definitely.
All right, let's find this now. What have I got him saved in here? As you said, it was X-rated, didn't you? Right, Paul Casey. So he says to me, he says, I migrated to the potting green. There he is. Just waiting for test results on his COVID. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks, pal. Right. Hi, Trottie. Hope you're doing well. Are you in Ohio this week? Yes, I'm in Ohio. I'm just jumping on a plane and heading there today. If possible, I want to talk to you and Wade, which is the fella that builds the trucks on the PJ Tour, about building up a new driver. I'm fighting the one I've got right now. I might take a fresh approach and get you to build one based on your recommendations rather than previous specs. Thoughts? Cheers, PC. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that is a green light to say, once upon a time in your 15, 20-year career, you useless twat, you made me a driver that really worked. Can you please recreate that now? Certainly, Paul, I'm on it. So you obviously then, I think I then sent him a message that said something like, because you need to know a little bit, and the first place you go now, because things are moving on so much, is you have a look at his driving stats and you start to figure out, okay, where's he missing? What's he doing? I said, sounds like a plan, travel safe. Then I started to ask him stuff like, what's your miss? And I think he said on here, which is very much, here you go, I've got the dead straights and the cut down. That's what he wrote, which basically means he's probably a hair steep of what he usually is. So he's coming down, but he wasn't. He was like, I remember him being like 3 degrees up on it. But Casey, we're talking about one of the best ball strikers in the game. So if you're looking at where he's striking it on the face, I think he was hitting it a little bit in the heel, and he's got the nuke straight. I literally said to him, aim for that pine cone on that bush that's like 300 yards out there. He didn't miss it in like 14 shots, and I'm stood there going, not a lot wrong with this fella. And then he hits one that's a little fan out to the right that goes like 300 yards. And it's like, that's the one, that's the one. So then obviously you latch on that as a fitter, and we made him a club that had some weight in the heel, and I went for a different feel in the shaft. Now, you play it, shafts, there's so many myths around golf shafts, boys. I'm going off on a tangent here, but so many amateurs, and I bet you boys do it. And well, I've done it too, right? You think you're driving it like an idiot. You've forgotten how to play golf. So you go into the golf shop and you stand there, and the pro's got this rack of golf shafts out there, and you pick up the one that's the best colour because you think you're cool, and you pop your chest out and off you go. Wrong play. Just completely the wrong play. You need to get in a golf shaft. This is what I did with Paul. You need to get in a golf shaft that has the technology that is a year on or 2 years on from what you've already enjoyed. There's the first step. It has to have the same feel to it, but embrace some of the new technology. As a good player, you have to check the butt thickness, because the butts on these golf shafts always change, because they always talk about reduced ovaling. And you read it in marketing, and you're like, yeah, what are you talking about, reduced ovaling? It basically means that the shaft doesn't crush. When you transition the energy, even if you're over 160 ball speed, you boys will all be doing this, strapping lads. But when you transition the energy, you're going to crush the golf shaft. So they're making the butt section structurally stronger, which means they might be making it thicker. So for Casey, if I put he plays like 3.5 tapes. So he plays like 4 tapes in the right, 3 in the left, or it might be 2.5. Sorry, Paul, if you listen, I've forgotten already. But basically...
Paul isn't listening.
Yeah, we'll get him to listen. But basically...
We'll get him on.
He's trying to take the taper out the golf grip, right? Because the grip tapers. And the long story short is, I had to put less tape in the new shaft rim to try and recreate the feel. Then all of a sudden, I put more weight in the head, because I mentioned he was hitting it dead straight or slightly right, so I want to help him draw it. So I put weight in the heel of the club to help him draw it via hot melt, which is a glue we put in the head. I've got the look and the face angle he wants, and I put more swing weight in it because I'm playing a counterbalance shaft. So all these little things I'm doing are all going off a text message he's given me, which is I'm hitting dead straight or missing an ant's pube to the right. And then we go out there, we get on the track, man, we go through the rigmarole, we hit the shots, and then this is what you've got to do with tour players that you can't do with most amateurs. Because most amateurs at this point, you'd say ovaling and they'd buy the club off you because you work on the tour. It's just the way it is. They just don't. And that's why I like take the responsibility as a player, guys. If you don't like it, overrule. You know what I mean? Anyway, with PC, we then removed the TrackMan. We decided he needed a little bit less loft. I run all the way to the truck, which was freaking miles away, come all the way back, get him the less loft. That's when he says what did he say? He said he's transitioned to the putting green or whatever, migrated to the putting green. I was like, Jesus Christ, he's migrated to the putting green. Find him on the putting green, grabbed one of those Jack Nicklaus milkshakes from someone. I was like, not sure if you've got COVID, I'll have the milkshake. Had one of them, ran to the first tee and watched him blitz one down the first tee. And he just looks at me and goes, oh, Trottie, pretty good, that is. And I knew he was happy with it because he outdrove the other 3 lads he's playing with Varner, someone else, and he just bombed it. And then I'm like, PC, do you need me to walk with you? And I knew he was going to say no, because you just tell when someone is so stoked. And he's like, nah, that's really good, mate. And I was like, cool. And then off he goes. And then obviously then you leave the tournament and you look at the stats and you have to follow up. And I think this is why I've done well with it. You have to stay close. You have to treat every golf bag as if it's your own. And I did that from everyone from Andrew Coulthard back in the day, who I became good pals with, and he played, all the way to Casey. And you're watching the stats. You live in it then. And you want him to do well. And he made like a 12 or an 8 on a par 3 and he missed the cut. And I spoke to him Saturday morning and he told me that the playing partner he played was Jimmy Walker. Jimmy Walker loved the look of the driver, said he wanted one, which is a great compliment. But that's how it works, right? You go to a restaurant, you have a nice meal, and someone will say, I'll go and see the chef. It's the same deal. And then basically, so we're making Jimmy a driver this week. Hopefully the boys will get that in. Obviously, I'm here in my garage speaking to you there at the tournament. But I think Casey drove the eyes out of it. I mean, we're talking 4 strokes gained off the tee, which is why I'm going to be, having him on my fantasy golf team this week, because I think he's in good shape. I really do. But that's
it's interesting. It's fascinating hearing you talk it through, Chris, because I suppose a little bit of me thinks, because I'm not a massive equipment junkie. I'm into my equipment, but I'm not sort of someone who's straight to the sale rail in a pro shop or looking to put a new shaft in as soon as I have a bad round. I kind of hazard a guess to say that you're also offering, there's an element of kind of, I don't know how you'd best term, but you're kind of almost a sort of a pseudo coach really to the players as well, in so much as you're helping them, give them the confidence back in their game. And yes, there will be some equipment changes that will happen, and they swing like machines, these guys. But at the same rate, you're also helping give them confidence as an individual out there. Is that fair? Or
100%. I mean, look, the way I have a very unique style, and I think if my colleagues were listening to this now, they would be laughing. I have a very unique style. They know I do. And, I will say things that a lot of other people won't say. Players like that. You've got to treat these guys normal, but you're also in a psychology situation. PC is he's a golfer's golfer. He really is. He is, and he's getting not picked on. This is all credit. He's one of the best tour players I've ever worked with. And I've worked with some amazing golfers over time. And I think the fact that, he's not won more and he's had a stellar career it's a shame, because he's amazing. But you have to, when you go into that situation, and I have my boss is very good at this job. He's worked with the best since, he's a bit older than me, and I've learned so much from him. And sometimes he says to me, like, I can obviously talk a lot. I mean, we've been on this podcast now for 20 minutes. You lads haven't said anything, so you know the deal. But basically, my boss said to me, he's like, this is a great, easy podcast for you, innit? I could just talk to nobody. But my boss
just let us know when you're done, Chris.
Yeah,
we'll come back.
My boss says to me, he says, listen, he's like, sometimes just don't say the obvious, because it's a psychology situation. And that was sort of 5 years ago, and I've learned that now. Sometimes you've got to just zip it, watch the ball fly, let the player figure out what they want, let the player tell you what they want, because they'll give you the answers. And I had that with Koepka on the Wednesday before Belle Reeve PGA when he won. I'd never done much stuff with Koepka, and my boss would usually handle that one. He was out on the course with some legend, and basically Koepka's driver's cracked. I'm the only Muppet hanging around, and they're like, Koepka needs a driver, you've got to get on this. So I was like, right, on it. Get out there, match the drivers up. And, the guy doesn't say much. So you're like, okay, just, measure twice, cut once here. Because it's Wednesday before the PGA. This is the hottest player in golf right now. And it's on you. And obviously that worked out pretty well for me. I think my boss took the credit, which is whatever, he can have it. Hope he doesn't listen to this podcast, so he can have the credit. I've worked with enough players without getting Koepka's PGA win. It's all good. But that was me. That was me. Exactly. Get that on the headline. That was me that did that driver.
I mean, you alluded to it earlier, Chris, when you talked about YouTube and how TaylorMade's embraced so many different forms of media over the last few years. And I think the content that's been focused on your pretty small stable of players has allowed a lot of golf fans like ourselves to kind of peek behind the curtain, as it were, of the practice habits and the skills of the world's best players. And it's pretty cool to see, the likes of Tiger and Rory and Rambo talking about, how they hit different shots, and just be quite candid over what they're thinking when they step up and hit a certain shot. And I just wondered if there are any, particularly eye-opening moments from your perspective where you watch these guys hitting balls or talking amongst themselves that made you go, wow, that's kind of not what I would have expected to hear, or that's pretty interesting to see how they talk about hitting certain shots.
You're just teeing me up for another 35-minute answer, aren't you? I mean, it's the best question.
He's always tried. He's work shy, Bruce is. So he's just...
that's
why we have him on the pod. He's class. He adds no value in the bar, Chris, but yeah, he's a very good podcaster.
I'll talk equipment till the cows come home, but yeah, I've no value in the bar whatsoever.
So, man after my own heart. So basically, I'm not teetotal, don't worry. I mean, I've just had a horrific hangover on Sunday, so I'm not drinking again, I don't think, after that. But we'll move on. So
is that why we got moved out?
Yeah.
Is that why we got moved out?
No. Yeah. Honestly, but I was, you know how it gets though. When you have a day wasted, you do get a little bit behind, like, again, Americanism, but behind the 8 ball, snookered boys. I was like, I'm not, and then I see it pop up and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I've got to get on here, boys. I've got to get on. So, tomorrow. Anyway, apologies, but it's all worth it. So do you know, the best week of the year is the photo shoot. And when you get to go to the photo shoot for TaylorMade, I'm going to be honest, you're TaylorMade royalty when you get to go to the photo shoot. Unless you work truly in marketing, you are TaylorMade royalty when you get to go. And it took me probably 15 years. I don't know how long I've been there, 15 or 16 years. I've only been to like 3 photo shoots. I played a big role in the last one, which was brilliant. But the one before, I literally was just walking around with a set of headphones on that the sound man had given me. It was the best 2 days of my life. I had to do anything. I had to get someone a water. I had to pass Tiger Woods a golf club. That was about it. And then they realised that I half like being on camera and I could talk a load of shite. And they were like, actually, we'll have you in the photo shoot. And then I spent the whole 2 days working my ass off. I was like, bloody hell, it was better when I was doing nothing. That's not true. But the photo shoot, to your point, you think that you guys are seeing the best bits of it. You're seeing the clips where they capture it and they put it out on YouTube and they make it all fancy dancy and the fellas in the bunker and Jason Day will be talking about pitching. Honestly, though, I had a moment a couple of years ago. I was stood with Piers Ward from Me and My Golf, and the sound guy walks past me, and I must have looked lost or something. And he just says, "Oh, hey man, do you want these headphones?" And I was like, "Sure." And he gives me these things. They look like a Sony Walkman from the 80s that my sister had. You remember that one with the yellow case? I was like, "Oh, thanks, buddy." Put them on, and I realised that it's the microphone for it's the audio for Tiger Woods. And I'm like, and you're listening, you're thinking, "Shit, can you hear me?" So you sort of don't move because it's like, you're like, Jesus Christ, this is Tiger Woods. And you just stand really still. And you're like, I hope I haven't got to do anything here. And you have that moment, even I do, after I've been doing this since Moses was a small boy. You have that moment where you're like, I hope that I am not expected to do anything because I am fully not ready. And then all of a sudden you realise you're sweating more than usual. And all you're doing is listening to the bloke talk. But then you settle into it. And you realise that he's talking through with Jason Day, who is a legend. They're talking to each other about a certain shot, but it's not on camera, but it's got the audio. And they were talking about different pin positions and different flights and different pins and stuff. He's obviously going through it. At the time, his back was a bit worse, and he's doing his movement. He's going through it, and he's a bit like, oh, you know, and you feel for the guy. But then he hits these golf shots, and they were talking very much about the ball he uses and descent angles. And I mean, it was just, 20 minutes of the best audio golf you could ever have. Now, I could see it from like 35 yards, but to hear it and to hear their conversation as players to players, I think that's what TaylorMade has been able to do, to bring people in. Now, yeah, as a brand, we are trying to humanize a little bit. And personally, I think we've done a good job at that. And I think, to be fair, I've helped with that. I think golf is so stiff and there's so many, like, as they call it in the States. And I'm not knocking on it, and it is needed, but there's a lot of sports coats, the Blazers, and it just gets a little heavy at times. And I think America does a very good job of making golf casual in the sense that you can drink out on the course and you can have fun in the golf carts, but then it kind of goes all the other way, and it's really like stiff. There's not a middle ground. There's not like the local golf club that has the monthly medal and you boys go out in the morning and then you come in. There's not that. I can't seem to find that. I can either find very high end or down and dirty.
It's either totally accessible or it's unattainable, isn't it?
Yeah,
you've got places out near you which are just, absurdly private, and then you've got, complete municipal. And like you say, it's too contrasting. Whereas in the UK, you almost have the complete opposite, where essentially everything from open rotor courses to your local municipal is just a sliding scale of budget, really, for the non-affiliated player. So, and
I think golf is in such a great place, and I think there's a core group of American golfers that I've certainly met who are desperate to learn. They know they relate to Ireland, they relate to Scotland. They want that form of golf, like Bandon Dunes has it. I've not been there yet, but they want that form of golf, and they want the medals, and they want it. So I think it'll come. And obviously, it's 50% of the golf club market. It's 50% of the golf market is America. So I mean, it's where you really want to be if you're in this side of the industry. So they'll figure it out, but. Yeah, I mean, sticking on that photo shoot and that experience and those players being around, some of the skills that they have them do. I mean, you obviously go there thinking you can half play, and you go there thinking, sometimes you have a moment like, maybe I should have kept going as a player. And then you go and watch those guys do their thing, and you're like, I'm really glad I quit playing golf when I was about 24 because I would have been horrific. I wouldn't have won the local medal at this rate. I mean, they're just unbelievably good. So good, boys.
With those boys that you've got in your stable, are there any of them that are particularly sort of strong tinkerers that are in every round? You know, can you just adjust this, tweak that? And to the flip side of that, you've got many you've actually got to chase down because they would just never change their kit.
The better the player gets as a general rule, the less tweaking they do. The exceptions to the rule, Dustin gets a little bit bored of equipment. And I think part of his psyche is that if he's not feeling it on something, he'll change. It's obvious. The guy runs top 30 PGA Tour putting. And I think when I cleared the truck out at the back end of last season, there was 17 putters for him. And I think we built him 35 drivers for the year. So that's what you're dealing with. But the guy has been, since I've really got to know him, coming in as a European, and I can talk as a European, he has been the best guy I think I've got to know over the last 5 years. Such a good personality, such a cool guy, very fair, very fun, quick-witted, and like cool guy. One of the best. And I think misinterpreted in the media. I really do. So that's him on his equipment. Johnny Rahm comes on there quite a bit, but never changes, only checks. Checks his loft and lies all the time, checks his putter all the time, hangs out a bit, leaves. Rory comes on for new wedges twice a month, probably, likes to keep on top of his wedges. And Jason Day never, ever, ever, ever comes on unless he's lost. Tiger never comes on unless he's in the wrong place and lost. And then, I mean, that's really the crew. Morikawa a little bit. Wolfie doesn't do much. Wolfie and Morikawa are new to it. They're still kind of figuring out what the truck is. So we service a ton of players who aren't contracted, but our contracted guys, they don't come on a ton. If they do, it's because something's either broken or it's a regrit or it's a wedge change.
That's interesting. And you've got what? Presumably, I mean, what do they have, like a stable of maybe sort of 18, 24 clubs that they'll just rotate depending on where they're playing week in, week out?
Rory does, for sure. Rory probably travels about 18. I don't think Tiger does. Tiger tends to stick pretty much with the same gear. If he changes, he'll test at home. Apparently, he's got loads of greens in his house and stuff and different conditions, different grasses. So he'll test at home, out of the way. I mean, you can understand that, right? It really is a fanfare whenever he's around. Dustin will keep all his stuff on the truck. Like, we basically are Dustin's mobile locker. I mean, it's like everything is on there for him. And that's cool. He comes on a lot. He chills out. He leaves his shit there. He leaves chargers there. He leaves training aids there. He leaves snacks there. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, it's basically, he's our guy, you know what I mean? And Rory's getting a bit that way, to be fair. But Rory, there's a guy that you can learn a lot from. He runs his life like so regimented. I said it. He agreed to meet me last Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Literally, the clock turned 7 and he bowled in. I mean, the guy is on time all the time, efficient, clean shaven, looking smart, off to the gym, does his thing, leaves. You know, he's pretty legit.
Apart from Medina.
Yeah, true. But then he meets his future wife, so it wasn't meant to be, was it?
Just touching on that point there that you raised, Chris, as far as, you know, the sort of the players that you'll work with, but then the guys who you've got under contract. I think it's maybe going back a little bit, but it seems like the golf industry's undergone a pretty big change over the last 5-6 years or so, and it looks set to maybe undergo another one with, you know, the rumours about bifurcation and all the distance stuff, which is up in the air. And I guess a few years ago, Nike pulled out of club making business. And how do you think it's kind of changed as far as contracting players and getting players involved with your brand versus just letting the clubs kind of do the talking on their own regard? I mean, would you say that it's changed a lot since you came out on tour in 2004 in that respect?
Just look at the money that they're playing for. And I think now that has become the main driver for the player. And I think the truth is that the companies couldn't keep up with the sort of demands that the players were making, in agents, not players, agents were making in terms of sponsorship. It was going insane. All thank you to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods changed our lives. Everyone on this podcast now, this ain't happening unless Tiger's done what he's done. There'd be a podcast. I'm not sure we'd be talking about golf. We'd be talking about, I don't know, ferrets or something. It's just Tiger Woods has been the benchmark. He set it all for us. It's as simple as that. But in turn, he raised the market value of everyone who played golf. I mean, he is CBS, right? But without him, you don't have a golf tournament. It's as simple. It's a bit like Kelly Slater in the surfing world, or Shaun White in the snowboarding world, or Pete Sampras was in the day. You get where I'm going with that. There's icons that if they're not playing your tournament, sponsor isn't really that interested. So it raised the bar. So then you get to a point where you have a scenario, and again, we'll go back to him, but my buddy PC, I mean, he plays what he wants, and he'll test what he wants, which is where people like me and my colleagues, we've got to be on our A-plus game. Because if we go into a club fitting and it isn't better than what's next to him, the guy's not playing, we're not paying him anything. He's using it based on relationship, he's using it based on performance, and he's using it based on statistics, because the whole game is about statistics. Then that brings us into where we're at with Bryson. And then that brings us into those bombs that he's hitting. I mean, that drive in Detroit down the last just over the corner, I'd still be hitting it now to get up to that golf ball. I mean, the truth is that's the way the game is going. And you're going to see 14, 15-year-old kids start to, as soon as their body is mature enough to embrace that stuff, you will start to see them go and do that in an attempt to swing it like a long drive guy. Then you'll get back to my friend Tio. You see what I'm doing here, boys? I'm taking us all on the podcast, all the way back, bringing all these little characters I've brought in. Tio at Cobra is now no doubt working on a driver that's going to have 4 degrees of loft on it. It'll have a CG that will be deep and back, so you can offset it against the CG of the golf ball. Anytime you can get them offset perfectly for a delivery of Bryson's club attack angle that will literally send that thing out of the stratosphere. Yeah. And those boys are working on that because his model now has changed. The boy's coming up with 190 ball speed if he's just pitching up for a Sunday knock. So they've got to change. And the game will change. And it's going to move on. And it has to move on. And I'm cool with it. I mean, move on. And Casey said to me this week, he's 43. I think his birthday today. And he said to me, like, what do you think of it? To me. And I said, I love it. I said, what do you think? He's like, I love it. He said, I'm not going to do it. Of course he's not going to do it. He's sadly probably too old. But you get a 13, 14-year-old, and I'd be having them spinning those hips like Elvis and letting that thing go. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the way to do it. Just stay injury-free and get after it.
We had Mike Clayton on the pod relatively recently. Obviously, he's kind of massive course architect, hugely, ex-player of the game, sees where it's going, and always talks about this kind of generational lag you've got. So the longest hitter today will be the norm in 15, 20 years' time, when maybe we're at that point. But how do the club manufacturers respond then to bifurcation? Because then that world that we're in, and it was always there, but certainly then you get into the Tiger era and you think about the innovation with TaylorMade and what they did with, woods and the fairway woods and drivers of the day. All of a sudden it became about having a piece of equipment in the bag that a tour pro was using. And let's assume in a world we don't bifurcate the ball, we bifurcate maybe clubs somehow. How do we respond to that? Like, that's going to have a massive shift in the marketing prestige around a new driver, knowing that there's a different piece of equipment in play on tour. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tried to be done before, right? ERC, Callaway. They tried to do it. They made an illegal driver. They tried to make that for the amateurs, and then they made the stuff that was tour. And I don't think obviously, clearly, back then, didn't really work. Arnold Palmer got into trouble, didn't he, for saying like this? He endorsed an illegal driver. People slated him because he went against the purist of the game, and he's obviously the voice in the game at the time and the godfather. But at the end of the day, I mean, my back's in pieces. I am not a huge guy, and I generate pretty good speed, to be fair. And I can give most fully grown humans a run for how far you hit it. But I mean, I'm benched right now. I can hardly move. And I potentially, to play these 7,000 plus golf courses, I mean, I can play them still, but I work in the equipment game. I would use something that helped me. I'm never going to play on tour, and I want to enjoy the game. And I think there should be a set of rules for an AM and a set of rules for a pro, so that we can go and play places like Carnoustie. That's an amazing golf course. Hopefully they let you play for back tees, which they didn't when I went, which was probably the biggest letdown in my life right now as a big Hogan fan. And, you stand there, play it off the yellow tees, and Hogan's alley might as well be Hogan's M6. I mean, you're not hitting up an alley off the yellow tees, let me tell you. Yeah. And the point is, it's like, I think that I want to keep playing golf at the way I play now. I don't want to get worse, and I'm probably not going to get any quicker. And I would embrace it. I think golf has to embrace it. I don't think it's possible for people like me and maybe looking at how old you are, maybe 1/3 of you guys could do it. I don't know. Like it's like, have you got the time? Have you know what I mean? And it's if your body lasts. Because this is the thing. Bryson's gone and done what he's done. And he's 26 years old. And he's changed his body. Now, Bryson is going for it the next 5 years. He's going for it. He's not married. I don't know if he's got a girlfriend. I doubt it. And he's going for it. No, not knocking bread. But you can't, right? He's going to live the way he's living.
He's dedicated.
And, yeah, we'll leave it there. But he's going for it, you know what I mean? And he's going, if he keeps going, and he wins 3 or 4 majors in the next 4 years, which isn't a ludicrous comment, he's going to make Hall of Fame. Now, the flip side is, he could have had his body where it was. He could have left it where it was. He could have had a 15, 20-year career. And I don't know if we'd be talking about him in the same vein. You know what I mean? And we're going to be those old badgers at a golf course eventually. We're going to be the old buffers walking around, going up the first at Hoylake, struggling to get to the corner with our driver. I mean, it'd be cool, wouldn't it, if I had a driver that still popped it out there and I could at least give the whippersnappers a game. And it becomes more about the wedges. It becomes more about scoring. You play the courses when they're firm and fast. I was texting with Matt Fitzpatrick. He played well last week. He said to me it was great to play a golf course that's firm and fast, and it's not like smash and gouge. So I think you've got to make them narrower. You've got to make them firmer. Fitzy's a 170 ball speed.
Yeah, he's not a huge hitter, is he?
No.
Fitzpatrick.
And and he's happy with the way the place was. And then you get Hovland, who tweets something like, or Instagram, whatever. He's put like, I'm looking forward to a week off. Kid hits it a long way. But it's obviously, the course has worn him down. Whereas Fitzy, who's a bit further on, his pro development, is like, I bring that on. That's the way it needs to be. So I think the secrets are always in, we talk, you can't have this phrase because I'm having it, but the secrets are always in the shaft dust. Do you know what I mean? The secrets are in the dirt. It's that kind of thing. The answers are always there in front of us. If the touring pros are saying, if you make a golf course firm and fast, I'm okay with it with my 170 ball speed, then they're kind of telling you, you know what I mean? And if someone wants to go out there and get 190 ball speed, 195, good for them. Now, us as amateurs, if you're asking me, then give me the driver that's made for amateurs because, I'm not getting any younger and I've got kids and I've got a job and I've got blah, 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 blah. You know the deal. So I'd take it. But does the purist in me want to play the exact same golf course as them? Not anymore. I want to play the same tees, which is why I want the driver. But I've done it. I've tried my whole life and not made it as a player, and the game's really hard. You know what I mean?
Tying up a few things that you mentioned earlier on about trying to get RAM on the new irons.
It's a dodgy one for TaylorMade, by the way. I kind of half wished I hadn't said that. Sorry, TaylorMade. But you won't be listening anyway. Yeah, carry on. This makes me look shit at my job, by the way, but carry on.
No, it's all good. The golf marketing industry isn't short of a superlative or two when they try and describe things. And I think Callaway are probably the worst for it because they've invented a new metal every time they've got a club.
I just want to stop the question there. I just got to stop the question because, honestly, it is my standard piss take when I walk into the marketing suite and I look at a club and I go to them, high launch, low spin, lads. Is that where we go with this? High launch, low spin. They're all like, hey, man, you can't say it. I was like, and then I say to them, I go and listen to a presentation and I say, I go in and I set the timer and I say, right, how long we got until we say high launch, low spin? And then obviously someone will go, and it launches higher and it spins. Like, boom, we got you. I'm with you. Anyway, carry on.
They're obviously, I mean, it's not rocket science. They're targeting people that want to try and improve and they want to get better, and they'll spend money at doing that. But obviously, you're trying to get pros on the new irons. Is it genuinely clear that the next set of irons is every single step is a development forward, and that they will give you gains as long as they're tweaked to you correctly?
I think when it comes to irons, candidly speaking, I think TaylorMade really moved forward when they put speed slots in the faces. You know the set Rosie won the US Open with? The long irons, the RSIs, I think they were PSIs, you boys are probably know. They had
pretty much copied them, didn't they? I mean,
yeah.
They were pretty revolutionary.
They had the black slot in them, didn't they?
They did. So obviously people aren't going to see this, but I'm holding up. This is a left-handed club, so it shows you how bad my back is. I'm right-handed, being hitting balls left-handed. But they had this speed pocket in the sole, all right? Yeah, I'm going for it. I love Matt O'Grady. So they had this. That's a whole other podcast. They had this speed pocket in the bottom that went from heel to toe, and the idea was, and here's why I love TaylorMade. Right, 70% of amateurs, 70% of us hit it low in the blade. So the idea was, again, holding up this to the camera for the sake of the audio, the idea is that the bottom third of the iron face would give you more speed off the face, okay? You're never going to get the same gains you get from the woods. You're not going to get that because it's an iron. It doesn't have all the body that it can spring off. But it would give you more energy transfer because of the speed pocket. And I'll tell you now, if you miss-hit a long iron, Rosie would say it, I remember Stevie Gallagher saying it, you'd be going for a flag that would be on the front, you'd miss-hit it. In years gone by, you'd be in the water if there's water short the green. These boys were making front edge. And the statistics were starting to show that. And it was really when we as a company were starting to get into strokes gained, we were starting to look at products. Now, a bit of a side topic. We have a kid who works for us. I call him Briefcase. You know the in-betweeners? Briefcase wanker? I call him that.
Yeah.
So he's English. And he worked out in Iraq and he did a tour. And his job, his name's James Cornish, and I'm going to make sure he listens to this because I plug him all the time. And basically, Briefcase went out to the Middle East and he would study like the bombs and when you drop artillery, how much damage these bombs would actually make, and trying to figure out how you can drop and what you're trying to do, because some of them are just like a decoy. Anyway, he ends up somehow, I have access to him to talk about golf clubs. He's been nerding out on all these stats, and he's like, yeah, I told R&D this and this and this, and they came up with this. Then this speed pocket thing turns up, and then we've got all these speed bridges turn up. I'm thinking, you're really smart, and I can just walk downstairs and ask you anything I like. And he's like, I guess. So before you know it. So where I'm going with that is I understand what you're saying, and I get it. And the purist in me wants to say to you, get a set of blades, walk out the door, go and play Hoylake or Birkdale or wherever you want to play, stand there into the teeth of the wind and be better. All the best. See you later. That's what I want to say to you. But having been in this game and having lived it with people like Briefcase and people like Tio and people like Todd Beach and been around some of the Rosies of this world, Rosie's a great one, and PC and all of them, you get to a point where there is a significant difference. But these players have a DNA. If you take Dustin hates speed pockets in irons. He hates them because he doesn't want all the energy. He wants to hit an iron and he wants it to spin so that it's landing like so steep. And when you watch Tiger wants that. And when you watch Morikawa's got a bit of that. But the truth is that that's not for everyone. And when you talk about the separation in the game, those players kind of need that. Whereas the rest of us kind of need speed pockets. So we developed a 760, which has become, and it's a bigger iron than the 750. Like I played 750, wasn't playing much golf, have been playing a lot more golf, hence the bad back, but also 760s, and they fly easier than 750s. But for someone like Rambo, who wants the look of the 750, we weren't really hitting it for him. Now, like I touched on earlier, we have something imminent that absolutely hits on what he's going to need as a player. I mean, it's going to hit on what he needs as a player. And I believe we'll get him in that because we've effectively designed it with him in mind. But I think just to finish it, if you're buying a set of golf clubs and if you're ignoring the technology out there, then you're not doing yourself justice. Because there's like I say, boys, there's a fella that looked at ammunition in Iraq who's giving information on R&D to golf clubs, and it's irons as well. I mean, if that's happening, then you probably need to get in on it.
Yeah, the data doesn't lie, does it? And I mean, 100%. You kind of preempted one of the questions I was going to ask there, one of the geeky questions that Sam and Tom will probably hate me for, but it seems that Tiger is one of the few players now, I guess, who sort of transcends a few of the different generations or different eras that golf's been, where he's played golf at a really high level. Is it fair to say he's someone who maybe bucks the trend of trying to, send an iron sky high with little spin? He actually wants to, it seems like he, is still very much controls his ball flight with a lot more spin than maybe even other pros will do. He's command of, like, you know, his shot shape and trajectory is known to be pretty imperious, I guess.
There comes a pushback, right? And that's what I found. We start making these fairway woods that go so far, go so far, go so far. We've had to add in a 16-degree fairway wood for Dustin, who plays it like a 14-degree fairway wood because it goes so far. There comes a pushback. We make TP5X golf ball. That thing launches. It's like you used to do when you throw stuff over your neighbour's fence. It's a frog toss, you know what I mean? Thing goes forever, no spin. Everyone's in a TP5 golf ball right now. Every single player we have is in TP5. There might be one in TP5X, and if there is, I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, because everyone has been around Tiger at the photo shoot. They've seen his land angles, and they want a ball that gets close to doing his land angles. So Tiger, compare it to the Paul Casey conversation last week at Memorial, he's stuck in a place he needs to be because that's where he grew up. It's very hard, right? I'll be honest, boys, in that my bunch of putters and crap around there, I still have a Ping Zing 2 putter. I don't use it, but I get the thing out every now and again. I have a TPA 18. I don't use it, but I get the thing out every now and again because you're trying to reconnect with old feels. I made a video on YouTube. Again, it's not a plug. I'm putting it out there to educate. It went on this morning. It's about swing weights. Swing weights are balance points on golf clubs. If you as a golfer have a club that you absolutely love and you rip, I have a Rocket Balls 3-wood round there that I absolutely nuke. I love it. Every time I make a new club, I take that thing in, I get the length, I get the loft, I get the light, I get the swing weight. Swing weight is everything. Yet we, as idiot consumers, aimlessly go to the rack, pick up a driver, stand there and go, feels all right, see you later, mate. Yeah, cheers. What are you doing?
It's absurd.
Just eyeballing it pre-round in a pro shop and think you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Give it a waggle.
But you go back to Tiger, and the guys hit countless shots. I mean, we saw Memorial replayed it. Is it countless shots? Absolutely been the man. All the history in those shots, all the greatness in those clubs. Are you telling me there comes a moment when even he's a little bit under the pump, where he's not standing there and he's got his bladed 5-iron, that's the same kind of build, same spec as he's used since he was a nipper, and he's like, I know what this does. It's like a race car drive. It's like everyone. And that's where the game is so great. You've got the mid-40-year-old Tiger who's not really going to change anything. I mean, we had so much fun in games with the Sim 5-wood and getting the paint lines right on that. And then you've got Bryson, who puts it all to the wind. And you've got Dustin, who'll change clubs every week. I mean, that's why I have a job at the end of the day. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm guessing there's no hard and fast rule to this and an easy answer, but you talk a lot about the amateur game, and I'm fascinated to get your take on what are the pitfalls you see most amateur golfers make when it comes to clubs and equipment decisions. And we've kind of talked about it there, like eyeballing and stuff in the pro shop, but people invest in different parts of their game that, you know, what do they change frequently, too frequently, not frequently enough? What are the big pitfalls you see?
They don't understand the driver. And again, I put it on YouTube. There's some stuff on there. I have very small YouTube.
I might take some notes here, actually.
It's a lot more followers than we've got. It's about circa 2.3K, but I wasn't.
But only just started it, and the reason I've started it, and I hope, on a serious note, I hope you can see it. I
checked it out. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
But I hope you can see where I'm going with this. I have a passion to help people at golf, and it's now more than ever. I don't know where I always liked helping professionals, but now more than ever, like that question you've asked, I'm stoked on that because I want to help people get better at golf, and I think there's so much crap out there that's wrong information. It's crap, and I would rather be at a point where I've worked with the best players in the world and they've listened to me. So I'm either really good fun to be around, or there must be an element that I'm actually saying something that's true. So I think where people get lost is they don't understand the FCT. They don't understand what the loft sleeve does. They don't understand that loft hits the golf ball, boys. When you deliver a golf club and you think you need a new shaft, all you're doing is changing the way the energy goes into that thing. Now, what you've probably done, because you got no freaking, not you boys, but most people, because they've got no clue, is they've taken a head off a different, but they've taken a head off a different club. Say they've grabbed an M5 and they think they're hitting this sim really well, and then they've gone, I'll tell you what, I like this shaft in this M5, unscrew it, pop it in the sim. Well, it's a different length, The heads are different weights. It's a different lie angle and it's a different loft. All right, good luck, mate. Good luck. Yeah, see you later. Good luck, lad. and that's basically what these idiots are doing. And I'm stood there thinking, and I go and do it, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then the next thing is that people don't do with equipment, and I'm all about it. I've got them all over the garage. Like training aids. There's a lot of crap out there in training aids. Don't go and look like the fella off Tin Cup. I'm not saying do that. But what you need to do is you need to get a neutral point. You don't get the transition. You know when you go and get your, what they call it on your car, when you go and get the balance done and all that. They do it every time you go and get an MOT.
Tracking or whatever it is, yeah.
It's money for old rope, isn't it? You walk in there, do your tracking on that, mate. Oh, cheers, yeah, how much, whatever. But it's a bit like playing golf and not having tracking on a car. You have to get an alignment stick down. You have to get a string for potting. You have to get a mirror. Rory McIlroy turns up last week with a simple stroke string and a bloody alignment mirror. Rory McIlroy, last week before he teed off, was best player in the world. And he's turning up with those. Yet what we're doing is we're standing out there having a sausage roll in the morning, a little bit of a stretch, cup of tea, new driver out the shop, pack down the head, don't know what head loft it is, off we go, lads, where's we going? Round the corner, perfect job. What course record you? You know what I mean? It's just like, you've got to know what neutral is, point number one. Then you've got to know what your clubs are doing, point number two. And it all comes back, and the message I'm trying to put is you've got to have ownership of your own game. And the one thing you've got to do, which I never did as a professional, and I wish I'd have done, you need to stand up when you know that you're right, and you need to turn around when that golf coach who sees you maybe as a good player, wants to give you a tip because he wants to help you, you've got to turn around and say to them, I got this, I'm playing well, I got this. And that's what Fitzy does. Fitzy messaged me, start of last week, great lad, needed a different driver. So, of course, I build him one, and he uses an old model because he won't change, he's stubborn. And, of course, I build him a new one. And, of course, I'm doing my job, and I give him the new one because he's going to gain yardage. Give it to him. Oh, new one there, Fitzy. He goes, yeah, can you send that to my house? And I'm like, no. Because I know, like, if he drives it badly on Thursday, I'm out of a chance. And he says, Trottie, don't do it again, mate. And I'm like, no, mate, like, I'm doing my job here. You're taking this driver. Anyway, he takes the driver apart, gives the shaft to someone else, off he goes, keeps it, doesn't want to touch it because he's such a good pro that he says, I'm driving it well, I don't want to touch it. Now, how many of you boys, I wouldn't be able to do it. If someone came up to me with a brand new club, I'd be like, oh, let's have a go at that, mate. Yeah, perfect. Just, you know what I mean? Whereas these boys are so disciplined. They're like, nah, leave it out, playing well. And that, again, is the key to great players and what amateurs can learn. So get a neutral test point, get an alignment stick, know your golf clubs, don't change them every willy-nilly day of the week, and just be, if you're playing well, leave it. You know, if you're playing well, yeah, do it, exactly.
And maybe that's where I could have been a tour pro, and, you know, I'm quite restrained when it comes to equipment decisions. I'm always shit scared, to be honest, of changing something and then cocking my sort of like borderline single-figure game up. Trottie, we are very respectful of our guest time on this podcast, and I'm nervous about you getting your teeth done. So I don't feel like we've covered everything. We'd love to get you back on the pod at some point, and we'd love to continue to do some stuff with you. But mindful of 15 minutes is up, and I'm going to let you bounce. But it's a huge thank you from us for joining the pod.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
Cheers,
man.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Watch this.